Hi everyone. Today we are joined with Justice S.N. Sri Krishna, the founding father of the Sri Krishna Committee and the person who laid the groundwork for India's first data protection laws. Thank you so much for joining us today, sir. It's a pleasure having you with us.
Thank you. Thank you for me too.
Well, to start with, sir, you drafted the Sri Krishna Committee bill, and you laid the foundation stones for India's first data protection bill. Now, it's been going back and forth for quite some time. A lot of things have changed in it. Looking back at its current state, what do you comment about it? What do you think about it?
See, currently there is no law at all because, as I told you earlier, there was a bill, a draft bill of 2018, which went into a lot of changes. Then it turned into 2019 bill. The 2019 bill had a lot of shortcomings, which were adversely criticized by several persons, and therefore it was referred to the JPC, the Joint Parliamentary Committee. The Joint Parliamentary Committee wanted at least about 81 or 82 amendments to that. That would have made it totally unrecognizable. Therefore, I think for some reason the government decided that instead of having this complicated patchwork of law, scrap the whole thing and start afresh. Now, when you start something afresh, you must start afresh with some principles in mind. I have always emphasized that the first principle is the human being must be at the center of it. All laws must be human centric. Now, what happened is the law that was already suggested by the 2018 bill got subjected to too much of lobbying by trade and business, particularly the MNCs who were opposed to what we call the data sovereignty or the localization aspect of that. Then there was one recommendation that the law should equally apply to government bodies. As you know, the government doesn't want it to subject itself to any laws. And number three, the security agencies put too much pressure, saying that hey, we want to have access to data unlimited without any restrictions. Maybe all these forces created so much of complication that the government has decided to go back and start afresh. What they do now, I have no idea. Let's see. Whatever comes out in the public domain, we'll all read it, understand it as far as possible, and then say what we want to about it.
Sure. Now, Justice Sri Krishna also made a very interesting comment in a session today. He said that the government of India has a tendency to put the cart before the horse. Keeping that in mind, sir, what would you comment about the Aadhaar database that we have right now? And are the principles of privacy being followed?
See, if Aadhaar had come into existence after a proper law of privacy had been put in place, we would not have this kind of confusion at all. Now, what happened is Aadhaar was suddenly brought into force. And that was, if you remember, Aadhaar came in as a part of the executive department. It was not even a separate entity. Then there was so much criticism, then they set up a separate UIDIA as a separate authority to do it. Then somebody raised this issue and said, doesn't it take away my privacy rights? Then the matter was questioned before the Supreme Court. Then the issue arose whether it's a fundamental right, privacy is a fundamental right or not. Then finally, Supreme Court decided and said, yes, it is. But you can infringe it or shorten it or abridge it by following these principles that the Supreme Court has laid down in the famous judgment of Puttaswamy. But I personally don't think that Aadhaar by itself is bad, because I see that you go to any other country, there is always a national identity card. And in a way, in our country, it was necessary because there are 2 billion people here, or what, 1.8 billion, or whatever the exact number of population, some of whom are not even identified. So this gives them an identity. This gives them a right to come back to the government and say, "Hi, I'm so and so. You are giving this benefit. I am entitled to it." That is why, if you remember, Supreme Court said, nobody shall ask for an Aadhaar number unless you are going to the government for some benefit. Even the government has no right to ask you your Aadhaar number. So today it's very fashionable. कहीं भी आप जाते हैं, shop वाला देंगे आपका आधार कार्ड बताओ. That is not correct.
That's true. I do agree with that. Now, to wind up with the last question, you did talk about MNCs and you did hint at tech lobby. Now, we've seen, big companies, big tech companies, say, be it Google, be it Meta. they've been imposed hefty fines in European Union as well as the US, but we haven't seen too many big tech companies being fined in India. So although we have data protection laws, do you think they are powerful enough? Are we taking the companies to task? Uh, are we able to enforce those laws that we have in place?
Where is the law? There is no law today. The law that was suggested by the 2018 bill said a global company shall be liable to a fine up to 5% of their global turnover. Imagine either any of the big companies, I'm not going to name them, any of the big companies being charged penalty of 5% of their global turnover. Do you think they would have the courage to infringe the law? Now, there are two issues. One is there should be a law. And number two, there should be enforcement of the law. Now, if law is not enforced, I cannot help it. That is the job of the government, and the government must act upon it. Now, चोरी किया तो जेल जाएंगे, लेकिन चोर को पकड़ने वाला कौन है? That is the problem, ना? And अगर पकड़ा भी तो 10 रुपया दे के छूट जाएगा. You infringe the law, like say don't talk on the mobile when you are driving, don't jump the red light. What happens? Most of the time you pay 10 rupees or 100. Now I don't know what the going rate now. Maybe 100 rupees or 50 or 500 rupees. You get away with it. Now, for example, the fines and penalties for all the traffic infringements has been jumped up by 4% or 400% or 500%.
In Bengaluru, yeah.
But everywhere, all over the country.
Right.
But has Bengaluru traffic improved?
Not at all.
That's it. That's the reason. So you must have a good law. You must have good enforcement of the law. That is the only way you can go about.
All right. Those were some great points. Thank you so much, Sri Krishna sir. And we'll come back with more for you. Thanks again. Thanks for joining us today.